This episode of the WWE podcast is brought to you by Stello Mints. Okay, so let me tell you why I love these mints. These are now my go-to whenever I'm feeling stressed. I work from home and I also have to work in the office. And if I have a meeting that really stresses me out, it just kind of puts me in a really bad mood and makes me anxious. All I do is pop one of these mints. It's a fast, simple way to feel more calm and clear-minded throughout your day, no matter how crazy things get. So let me give you an example. The other day I was in the office, and we started to go back to the office now that the pandemic seems to be somewhat under control, as they say. But I was back in the office, and we had to have a meeting right first thing in the morning. And right off the bat, I was assigned a massive project that I did not want any part of. It really stressed me out. I had to deliver the news to my team. And when I came back to my desk, I said to myself, this is a perfect opportunity to test out these mints. So I did. I popped two of them right in, and within minutes, I started to immediately relax. My mind started to clear. The fog lifted. It was a lifesaver. So these mints, by the way, are powered by CBD. And each tin contains 30 mints. And there's 3 different flavors you get to choose from. So peppermint, lemon, or matcha. All 3 of them are really, really good. So I would invite you guys, regardless of what your situation is. Look, my wife even tried these. She's at home with a toddler who is in crazy mode most of the day. Even she couldn't stop ranting and raving about how much these helped her throughout the day as she was trying to manage the chaos. So right now, this is exclusive to the WWE podcast listeners. You can get 15% off of these mints right now. All you have to do is go to stellomints.com. That's stellomints.com, STELLO mints.com, and use the promo code WWE podcast. It'll get you 15% off of your order. It's only for a limited time, so go make yourself less stressed. Clear your mind. Trust me. I put these things through the ringer, and I can tell you firsthand that they absolutely help you calm down, clear your mind, and ultimately have a more productive and just a flat-out better day. So go check out stellomints.com right now and put the promo code in of WWE Podcast and get yourself 15% off right now.
It's time to explore wrestling's past and potential future with your weekly dose of a segment we call What If? Only found here on the WWE Podcast.
It's time for What If with Anthony DeMarco, and tonight we're going to discuss something that I don't think anyone is talking about. No one, to my knowledge, has ever discussed this possibility, and that is, what if The Rock returned and joined the Bloodline? So, Anthony, welcome to the show. This is going to be an interesting conversation.
It is, and it's something that I've low-key thought about ever since the rumblings of him returning right around Survivor Series came to fruition. And I think everyone is suspecting, and the most likely outcome is him coming back, stepping up to Roman Reigns, and building towards a program at WrestleMania 38. It will be 38 this year, eh? Oh, that's nuts to think about.
Isn't that crazy? Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, it's just so, yeah, anyway, felt like 20 was yesterday. But I think that is the most likely outcome, and probably the best outcome, because I feel like that would be like the crowning achievement on Roman Reigns' resume. Although beating Brock Lesnar and John Cena and Edge in 1 year may already do that, but you have to think that The Rock is almost like the final destination on just this incredible run that Reigns is on. But I've also thought about, what if The Rock came back as a heel and joined the Bloodline and kind of brought back those characteristics that he had in 2003 and as the Hollywood heel? And I just keep thinking, like, man, would it maybe be even better?
Well, here's the thing. I thought about this once we discussed this topic earlier today, and we figured out what we're going to talk about. I immediately thought to myself, well, yeah, this would be awesome. Nobody would expect it, but why can't we have both, right? Where perhaps The Rock goes against Roman Reigns. Maybe The Rock loses. And then you think that The Rock is going to go back to Hollywood, and he sticks around and decides to indeed join the Bloodline. So you could get both. Again, we don't know. This is all speculation, of course, with The Rock rumored to come back in just a couple of months now at Survivor Series, around Survivor Series. That's going to lead to a program to WrestleMania. We've been talking about this for months and months now. But, I mean, you could have both. And I think that may, I mean, while I don't think this is likely, I think, like you said, the more likely scenario is indeed The Rock coming back and doing just what we said. But yeah, Think about The Rock joining the Bloodline, the guy that you think is going to come back and be the savior to finally dethrone Roman Reigns, the guy that is the White Knight riding in to finally take down Roman Reigns, and he ends up joining the damn group. I mean, people, I don't know if people would know what to do. Do you think, though, that if this happened, that people would reject it outright, or do you think that they would go along with it and go, okay, I want to see what this is about? Or do you think it'd kind of be like an Austin heel turn, like, I don't want this?
Well, look, I could only speak personally, but this is coming from like the biggest Rock fan there probably is here. I'm starting to reject his babyface character, and that's because it's not The Rock anymore. And I think that's one of the reasons why I would almost prefer this happens, because in my mind, when The Rock has come back the last several times, he wasn't playing The Rock, he was playing Dwayne Johnson. So in my head, I'm saying, well, there must be other people feeling this way. And secondly, if you're not going to play the babyface Rock that we all know and love, and you're just going to annoy us, then just be heel. Because that's kind of like what happened in 2002, 2003, when people knew that he was stepping away to Hollywood. If there's more people like me who sense that this isn't the typical Rock character we came to know and love 20 years ago, maybe bringing him back as a heel and playing onto that hate would make more sense. What do you think?
The Rock, we all know, is really good at being a heel, and we haven't seen heel Rock in a long time. And I think The Rock is still easily capable of it. But like you said, are we really talking about The Rock here as we once knew and loved him? The one that was, screwing with the coach and doing the If You Smell and working with Triple H. And no, he is past that now, and he has morphed into Dwayne. He is just Dwayne Johnson, who comes in, big reaction, deservedly so. He's a massive, massive star. We know that. But he's Dwayne doing the catchphrases of a character he no longer is. That's what you're right. That's exactly what it feels like. It doesn't feel authentic. It just feels like he is, that the Dwayne person, the human being of Dwayne is more important on TV than The Rock is. I know exactly what you're saying. And I think that I think people would go along with this if done correctly and planned out over several months. I don't think that this could happen all in one fell swoop. I have my doubts, especially if they do it immediately upon his return. We saw with Becky Lynch and the just complete, absolute flabbergasting move they made at SummerSlam, where people were like, what the hell? And like, what is this? Why are they turning her heel right away? I mean, The Rock coming in and immediately doing this would be jarring, and people would be like, whoa, wait a minute. Why aren't we getting Roman versus The Rock? I think people would, if we don't get Roman Rock, I think people would be pissed. I think there would be some resentment towards the company itself. Like, hey, we have a perfect matchup here. Why the hell are we not putting this on a WrestleMania? Now, of course, you and I both agree this is probably not going to happen. But how would you navigate that complete, just, I think, utter hatred and frustration from a fan's perspective of The Rock just joining and not going, hey, like we have a WrestleMania match here. What are we doing?
I think the only way you would be able to navigate through that is giving them that match and going the route that you suggested, right? And just having it build post-Mania. But that's pretty much why I don't think this will ever happen, because any way you cut it, for them to bring The Rock back as a heel and make him join forces with the Bloodline, they would need him for a much longer amount of time. Because obviously, if you want to do it post WrestleMania, that involves him being around until at least SummerSlam to give it at least a somewhat legitimate run. And if you wanted to even do it instead of a match and just build it from right away from Survivor Series to Mania, you would need more appearances from The Rock on TV to build this character, to explain why he made this decision, to get actual heat behind him. As opposed to now, if you bring him back as the status quo, the typical babyface, he comes in one every 5 to 6 weeks and he does his, Rock's greatest hits and does If You Can Smell, and then he walks off. there would be no need for character development because the character is already set in stone. It's already gravely in the mind of fans. But if you even wanted to build him as a heel in a 4 to 5 month span, you would need him maybe once every 2 weeks at minimum to really start driving home this new type of character. So, I mean, I think the only way that they could do it is if they did the rivalry and the one-on-one match with Reigns and then turning him heel. But for all the points I just outlined, I just don't see it happening.
Yeah, no, I don't either, and I'm not trying to negate the entire point of this show. I mean, we're going to go down that path in a minute, but I do want to bring up just some logical things that I'm sure fans are thinking, like, well, why wouldn't WWE give us this match? But the reason I don't think that they probably won't do this situation we're talking about with The Rock joining the Bloodline is because of the time commitment it would create for The Rock, which we know his movie schedule is constantly booked. He works out like 9 days a week. I mean, the guy is just a machine. We know this. So I don't think that this will happen simply because of a time commitment that it would take instead of just Rock coming in. Like you said, there's no character development. It's just The Rock as you always know him. There's nothing really foundational you need to change or shift. If we do see a change or a shift, that tells you that they are going to do something more long-term with The Rock. I highly doubt it. But let's go down the road. Let's have a little fun here. Let's just say The Rock and Roman have their match at WrestleMania, because this is the most likely scenario if this were to play out. We have Roman Reigns beat The Rock, as most of us assume, but I mean, that's not even a given. I've heard a lot of good theories about why The Rock should win at WrestleMania, but let's say Roman beats The Rock. Hook or crook, I don't care how he does it. He ends up beating The Rock. The Rock's defeated, sitting in the middle of the ring. Next night on, say, Raw. I mean, I don't know if Roman's going to be drafted to Raw or SmackDown. Let's pretend he's on Raw. So the Monday Night Raw after WrestleMania, Roman comes out and starts gloating about how there's nobody left, and he truly is the head of his family's table, and he is the alpha male. And The Rock's music hits. People think that The Rock is going to challenge Roman Reigns once again, and instead we get The Rock turning heel and joining the Bloodline. I think the only way to do it would be post-Mania, the Monday Night Raw after. I think that, so I guess take it from there, right? I mean, let me know what you think about that and how they would continue to evolve it from there.
I think that he would come in and he would come to the ring and kind of morph himself into an MVP type of figure in the Bloodline, and really just go down the road of the 2003 Hollywood heel that we would see. And I think having him have some tag team matches with Roman Reigns, but more just slide into like a managerial type of role, and maybe have him come out in suits and the sunglasses, kind of like the look of what the player agent he was in, what was his show, Ballers, kind of adopt that kind of mentality and not wrestle as much to really put the spotlight on Roman Reigns. Because here's the thing, if you brought The Rock in to the Bloodline and he was still an in-ring competitor, even if it was just on pay-per-views, because we know he would never wrestle on Monday Night Raws or on SmackDowns, but even on pay-per-views, maybe aside from the big four, I think it would be so integral to not have him be in the ring, because then you would automatically take the spotlight off of Roman Reigns. And that's no slight against Roman Reigns. But if The Rock is wrestling and an in-ring competitor, fans will gravitate to him, even if it's just the casual fans. Because as you said earlier, The Rock is just such a mega star that transcends wrestling. So I think the first thing that they would have to do and make sure to stick to is that The Rock would become more of a mouthpiece instead of an in-ring guy.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, The Rock at this point doesn't need to do anything regular or even semi-regular in the ring. He can carry a promo. We know that. We know that the Rock is capable of telling a story without being in the ring very well. He's got that gravitational pull on TV, and you want to make sure, like you said, to make sure that you don't pull that away from Roman, who is really the goal here. The goal is to help build Roman, not build The Rock. So we do have to think about this in terms of, as I said last week, all roads lead to Roman. But in this case, this is when it makes sense to do it, not in a forced way, but in a way that I think would take his career even to that next level if it's possible. So The Rock doing that, being the mouthpiece, and not being there all the time, but acknowledging Roman Reigns and doing it in a very kind of resistant way, but saying, yeah, you really are the head of the table. And then, I don't know who Roman's next opponent would be. I mean, I honestly don't know where you go after The Rock. I don't know, outside of Stone Cold coming back from retirement. I mean, I honestly have no idea. There's nobody above The Rock. Do you have any idea? Say this happened. Say The Rock joined Roman Reigns, and Rock isn't there all the time. He's more of a mouthpiece. Occasionally, he'll come back and maybe help Roman when needed. But where the hell would they go if Roman Reigns beats The Rock? Say The Rock joins the Bloodline. Who the F is going to face Roman Reigns past that? I mean, I don't know.
It's crazy, right? Because presumably he will have gone through at least Finn Balor and Brock Lesnar by then,
and John Cena,
and John Cena and Edge, and and Daniel Bryan. So you figure that there will even be another guy between Brock and The Rock in the Royal Rumble time, and maybe that's Kevin Owens again. I have no idea, to be honest with you, but I would have said Big E. I truly would have said Big E, but I think they really fast-tracked his push. Whether you think that's wrong or right, I'm somewhere in the middle. They really kind of pulled the rug out from under that. So he's off the table. I guess they could try and do Drew McIntyre again, but I have a feeling that Drew McIntyre is going to be that buffer between Brock and Rock around the Royal Rumble season. So in my head, I'm just like, is it maybe a guy like Damian Priest? Will Damian Priest in 8 years time be ready for a push like that? Because to your point, I really just don't know anymore, unless they turn a Seth Rollins babyface, but I don't think that would really be right either. So I don't know. I felt like Big E was the slam dunk option, but ever since he got named or won the championship last week on Monday Night Raw, their options are really few and far between.
Yeah, I mean, I ranted about the whole Big E victory, and just one small sidebar on that. I mean, I know I haven't really heard your thoughts on it, but Big E to me, while I understand people feel like, oh, it's overdue, he deserves it, and I understand the tenure. He's been there a long time. Well, guess what? A lot of guys and gals have been there a long time that work hard and dedicate their life to it, and we don't, complain about them not being champion. I mean, Cesaro may be one case, but people aren't breaking down the walls about that. I just have a problem with the character of Big E, just as I've had the problem with Kofi Kingston, even more so with the character. So to me, it's not about Big E as in a work ethic. It's not about Big E being there long enough or even skipping the line ahead of too many people. It's just his character that I can't stand, that I have a problem with. There was no real build either. It was just kind of like, hey, I'm cashing in. I'm going to cash in. I'm going to cash in. And he cashes in. So anyway, that is a deep, dark hole for me that I have gone down on many shows so far this week. But I don't know where they go beyond The Rock. If The Rock loses and then joins the Bloodline, or even if he just went away, I think that it has to be somebody in-house. It can't be another legend, because it shouldn't be another legend now that I'm thinking about it. Number one, there's no more legends to really pick from. Austin's not coming out of retirement. I mean, Hulk Hogan, of course, isn't coming out of retirement at 75 years old. I'm just thinking of the biggest names possible, and they're just not there. They're not there. So I think you do have to go with somebody in-house. I think Drew McIntyre, if The Rock is not going to be at WrestleMania, they go with Drew McIntyre versus Roman Reigns at WrestleMania. That has been talked about as a main event for WrestleMania for a couple of years now. So that to me would be probably the guy to do it, would be Drew McIntyre. He's hiding under the radar right now. Drew is just kind of spinning his wheels, and I think that's okay. I want Drew to take some time away from the spotlight and feel like he's not there on a weekly basis. So that's cool. I'm fine with it, and it's much needed. So honestly, if you're going to put a gun in my head, I would say Drew McIntyre is probably your guy to do it.
If The Rock did come back and agree to do first the build with Roman Reigns leading to a one-on-one match, and then later on joining the Bloodline, do you think you would need at least a year and a half of him doing somewhat regular appearances? Would you be able to just go on a touch and go basis and just take it by ear? How much time do you think it would require if The Rock were to agree to do the Bloodline storyline?
It would take a lot of time and effort. They would have to really believe that The Rock joining the Bloodline is a better option than The Rock coming back as The Rock / Dwayne Johnson and doing his shtick and doing his catchphrases and doing a rock bottom at people's elbow and maybe winning a match here and there. They would have to believe that this is going to be a more profitable, better story to help build Roman Reigns than the probably 99% chance of the other option that's going to happen. And I think that, again, we'd have to look at The Rock's schedule. WWE's got to look at The Rock's schedule. Is The Rock willing to commit that amount of time? I think it would take many months, and The Rock wouldn't have to be there every week, but even if he's there famously via satellite during the John Cena program about a decade ago now, I mean, he could still join via satellite, send in messages from his phone, be there maybe once a month or every other month even. Like he could still be attached without actually having to physically be in the arena. And I think that's probably how they'd have to do it. But if they were going to do it, yeah, they'd have to do it semi-regularly, minimum once every 2 weeks, ideally every week in some capacity, satellite, video message, FaceTime, I don't care. They would have to, because this is something that would be there's a seismic shift in how we view The Rock, who has not been heel in like 15 years.
And the other thing is that you bring up when he was doing his promos via satellite with John Cena, that is tailor made for a heel. I just feel like who The Rock has become now has made his character better suited to be a heel, because he could use I'm too busy to come to X town. You guys aren't worth my time, or I'll record like a pre-recorded interview and send it to you guys because I have a big Hollywood meet. And I just think that there's so many more interesting angles you could go down if he's a heel, backing the biggest heel in the company and, really legitimizing that faction as one of the best ever. And I think that him joining the Bloodline would almost be having like Ric Flair being a part of Evolution, just really finally legitimizing this group with like a stamp of approval of a legend. And the other thing is that I feel like then you could have more options for The Rock to go against at future pay-per-views. Like now that he's a heel, like imagine you could branch off into, I don't know, like The Rock versus Drew McIntyre or The Rock versus Edge that we had never seen. Don't you think that if he would come back and turn heel and join the Bloodline, it could make for some more impact matches down the line, as opposed to if he was just staying babyface?
Yeah. I mean, you have Randy Orton on Monday Night Raw, too. You have AJ Styles. I mean, for God's sakes, you've got a whole lineup of guys that he has not worked with. And, again, while I don't believe that this is in the future for The Rock, it would open up a whole lot more options for him to work with, individuals to work with. And I think ultimately it would help not just, of course, WWE get more viewership, which The Rock absolutely does. He's a needle mover. There's no question. But it would help build that newer talent. That's what The Rock's goal should be, and WWE's goal should be. And sure, The Rock will win a match or two, as he should. He's not going to come in and do a job to everybody, even as a heel. But he should come in with the goal in mind of, hey, let's use The Rock while we can to help build as much talent as possible. You're seeing it right now with Edge in a babyface capacity, but it's still working well. And Seth Rollins right now is doing career work. I mean, I think Seth Rollins and Edge, like it's a absolute highlight that I can't wait to see their third match, whenever that may be. So that should be The Rock's role. Very limited in terms of in-ring, but the goal would be to work with several different talent, perhaps over a year. I mean, they would have to dedicate at least a year to this project.
I got to ask you something that's still Rock related, but not exactly with this topic. And it'll just be a quick question because I don't want to veer off as usual. But I was watching the WWE's tribute to that 9/11 episode of SmackDown, where they did the tribute to, paying homage to everyone who lost their lives. And I remember The Rock standing at the front of the line with Vince McMahon. And I think back to wrestling at that time and Rock, being the guy to put Brock over at SummerSlam, and The Rock going one-on-one with Hulk Hogan at WrestleMania 18. Do you think for that brief period from mid-2001 to Austin's lockout, The Rock kind of became the face of the company over Stone Cold Steve Austin?
Oh, definitely. I mean, I think that was Vince's goal. he knew that he had at least one big star. And I remember famously The Rock saying, speaking to Stone Cold after he quote unquote took his ball and went home, that if you don't want to be here, then you get the F out. Also, and pun intended, to when they took the F out of WWF and became WWE. So The Rock still told Stone Cold to take your ball and go home. I mean, so I think, yes, that was that very moment. I don't know what Raw that was or when it happened. I'm assuming famously in 2002 when Austin walked out in Atlanta, Georgia with Brock Lesnar versus Austin in the qualifier. Had to have been the Monday Night Raw after, somewhere close. So yeah, that was the message being sent there. And I think that WWE had to lean on The Rock. I mean, who else were they going to lean on? Brock Lesnar was a rising star, no doubt, but he wasn't at that level yet. So The Rock was a shoo-in. He was the guy that the company was putting all their weight on, which, I mean, he had one foot out the door too, looking into Hollywood, as we all know. But yes, definitely, The Rock was the really the next guy in line.
I guess as we close it out here and we shift it back more towards The Rock, and if he were to join the Bloodline, I think this is almost a program he owes the fans, and maybe I'm talking more specifically like hardcore fans like myself, but I think we've seen for far too long now, since he originally returned in 2011, so over a decade removed, of just the same thing. You come back, you do your greatest hits, you feud and or cut a promo with wrestler X, and then you go on your way. And I feel like, yeah, a Rock return would be cool here, but I think we need to see one more creative Rock, not just the stereotypical stick that we've been accustomed to for the last 10 years. Do you not think that it would put an even bigger stamp on The Rock's character if he came back, added a new wrinkle to his character, got back some of that comedic relief that he was oh so good at as the Hollywood heel in 2003, and really captivated fans just one more time in an original way?
Yes, and it's funny you mentioned the comedic part of The Rock as a heel, because
Yeah.
I am there were some really funny times, and I will YouTube it once in a while, and The Rock can be funny as a heel, which sounds like an oxymoron, right? Like, we don't want heels to be cool, they shouldn't be funny, you should just flat out hate them. But The Rock, in his effort to be a heel and get the crowd against him, can inadvertently be hilarious. And what I mean by that is, one example I'm thinking of, I think they might have been in Toronto. And he was either he was making fun of the fans, but because he had mentioned their town, and he was just saying, The Rock said my town, and then like he was mocking the fans for cheering just because he mentioned their city. And it was hilarious. I think it was Toronto. It might not be, but I know he also did something with the Canada, the O Canada. He did something with Toronto Maple Leafs, I think. So he can be hilarious, but not intentionally. So I would love to see that part of The Rock in a babyface role. He has had some of the most iconic, hilarious promos of all time. I remember right before Armageddon 2000 when he imitated every single one of his opponents, from The Undertaker to Stone Cold to Triple H. I mean, it was hilarious, and I remember that very well. And so, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I think The Rock still has so much more to give. And don't get me wrong, the nostalgic act where he comes back and does The Rock's greatest hits will never get old in some capacity. I will always, have time for the classic Rock act. But at the same time, how talented of a guy he is. How charismatic of a guy he is. How would it be if he just for one last time let the chains off a bit? And I just think how it would help Roman Reigns. Like, can't you see The Rock being in a MVP type of role to Bobby Lashley, but obviously on such a more gigantic scale because, it's The Rock and not MVP. And I just feel as though, like, even like I pull a lot of parallels between Ric Flair and Triple H and Evolution. Like, Triple H only really got cemented as an overwhelming elite level talent once he got to Evolution, at least in my opinion, and he was affiliated with one of the best of all time. Don't you think that it would do a lot for Roman Reigns? And this isn't me even saying that Roman Reigns isn't already at that level. But do you not feel like it would just further cement him as just a top level superstar in the history of the company with a guy like The Rock by his side in a faction?
I will say this. if they decide to bring The Rock back, can convince him to do this, just as or similarly to what we just said about The Rock coming back, maybe facing Roman, losing at WrestleMania, and then joining for a year and trying to get Roman over more as a heel, that will send such a message to fans that they are not just all in. They are going in on a superstar like they've never gone in before, to bring back one of the greatest of all time to be second fiddle. And I don't mean that disrespectfully. I don't mean it that they demean The Rock, but really on kind of a two-man power trip with backup. I mean, unless Brock and Roman do that, which I think actually is a little more likely that Brock and Roman eventually do join forces because Brock's actually there now and it'd be fun as hell to watch. But I think that you would have a message sent from WWE like, we are 2,000% in on this guy being the biggest star of all time, to bring back one of the biggest stars of all time, to have a multi-month into maybe a multi-year plan of building this guy as the biggest star ever. I mean, it would be like, I can't even, people don't understand like how much this would really just say to fans that this is the guy that we are going to put our hat on and lean on for the next 5 to 10 years. I mean, they're already doing that now, and Roman has put WWE on his back for the last year and change now, but I don't think people understand the monumental really consequence of this.
Well, a quick rumor coming down the pike here, and who knows if there's any legitimacy to this, but I'm seeing on the Sportster right now that WrestleVotes is reporting that if this week Raw generates a lot of higher ratings, it may result to WWE opening up the box to showcase more main stars on both brands. So,
well,
I mean, are we going to see another wild card rule coming in?
I've already ranted about this on Twitter, and I know the draft is 2 weeks away, and I know that they have very rarely, if ever, stuck to, you and I have talked about this, stuck to the damn rules of the draft, which I think would behoove them. Instead of just willy-nilly not following their own rules, wild card, quarterly invitational, showing up with no explanation. I mean, they have constantly just bastardized their rules, and I really hate it when they do that with no explanation, as if we're just supposed to accept it. That's the worst part. And Roman Reigns on this week's Raw, to your point, and the poll that you're looking at, I think is, while I'm fine with Roman showing up on Raw if there's an explanation, I also understand the purpose of it. It's kind of a litmus test to see how much Roman Reigns moves the needle on the ratings. I think they're going to very, very closely look at the ratings for Monday Night Raw and compare them to the last several weeks to see if indeed people do want to see this. And the numbers don't lie. And I think this is absolutely a test to see what happens there. And I'm fine with it if there's an explanation for it. Like, any champion can float between brands as they wish. Okay, fine. Just tell me that. But don't tell me that there's a hard split and then have people willy-nilly show up. That I don't like.
If they want to do that rule that champions can float between brands, I wouldn't be opposed to it. But then you got to get rid of, I guess, the Universal Championship, right? Like, you're not going to get rid of the WWE Championship. You're going to have to get rid of one of the women's championships. You're going to have to get rid of one of the tag team championships. Like, and that's the thing. I'm not even against it, but you can't have 2 world champions, 2 women's champions, 2 tag team champions if everyone's floating between shows. Like, look, I've been rewatching some episodes of SmackDown from late 2002, early 2003, and they were so strict with the brand rule and the brand split that it made sense that you had 1 world champion on each show, and each felt equally as legitimate. Ditto for the tag team titles. But that's because it was such a big deal of not crossing over to brands. Like, do you remember when Goldberg got arrested for attacking Brock Lesnar at No Way Out 2004? Yep. And how big of a deal it felt? Like, I remember him walking in through the tunnel with security around him because he wasn't supposed to be there. He got the front row ticket from Austin. So if you want to go down that road, I think it's actually better. I love it when there's a hard brand split. And it doesn't even bother me that there are 2 world champions because it feels that special. But as soon as you make them cross paths, one of them feels inferior. And I watched the opening 10 minutes of Raw, and Big E and Roman Reigns did a stare down, both holding their championships. I'm just like, yo, you guys may think this is, Austin looking at The Rock, each holding a world title, but it's so clearly that Big E is the secondary champion. Or then even take a guy like Bobby Lashley. Don't get me wrong. Like, I loved Bobby Lashley as champion, but you put him face to face with Roman Reigns, you know that Roman Reigns is going to feel like the actual world champion. Heck, when people compare WWE to AEW, they always compare Roman Reigns to Kenny Omega. It's never Bobby Lashley. So, I mean, when you make a hard split and there's no crossover, I'm all on board with it. But as soon as there's a bit of, muddying of the waters, it just all feels diluted.
Well, I didn't see the opening segment of Raw, but that doesn't surprise me. Which is fine because it's the same thing that happened on SmackDown. They just rinse and repeat on that one. And I don't know. I don't understand how Big E is on Monday Night Raw. It doesn't make sense. Nor do I understand how Roman Reigns is on Monday Night Raw. We're just supposed to accept it as, it's okay. They're both here. They're both stars. But yeah, Big E does not feel like a real champion. I'm sorry he doesn't. I do not believe it from a character perspective. I think also his finisher is just god awful. I mean, it's just a belly flop. It's awful. Just so many things. But nonetheless, to your point, yeah, no, like this Roman Reigns, or as far as the brand split goes, I think that this, if they're going to do this, like you said, fine, do a hard split. But the problem is we've seen them time and again tell us it's a hard split and then just go, well, not really. We're going to implement these just discretionary rules at our will, and we'll enforce them as the storyline dictates. Not all the time, but when we need to, we'll enforce them. Otherwise, we're just going to have people show up with no explanation, not talk about it, and hope the fans don't care. And we see it all the time. And there's only 2 damn weeks, and they can't wait 2 weeks to just decide, okay, hey, we're going to start fresh. They can't wait 2 weeks to do that. Whatever. So I think there less championships always means more. I would cut all championships in half, get rid of the tag team championships, one of them. Again, women's championship, get rid of one of them, only one world champion. Even if they were going to do a brand split, you could still minimize the championships and have those mean more. Then the problem, though, becomes, I know what someone's going to say, well, then that could leave one brand with no championships. That's the balancing act, though. You got to have, try to split it as best you can with the storylines so that you have roughly half of those championships on any brand at any given time. So that's what I would do. I don't like more championships. To me, they always mean less. They're not going to do this, but that's how I would do it.
But what about in the Ruthless Aggression era where each brand had 5 championships, but it was an actual hard split to the point that each brand had their own exclusive pay-per-views, a concept I really liked. Did it still bother you then, the more championships?
I think that the brands having their own pay-per-views, they found out fairly quickly that the ratings and their buy rates at that time were not as good, because you have a lot of talent on, say, Raw or SmackDown that the fans were like, well, it feels half important, right? Because it's only half the roster. It doesn't feel like it's something I have to tune into and invest my money in. Now, this is a different era. People aren't buying pay-per-views as much, although you still can. I don't know who is, but you can. And I think that having brand-specific championships is fine, but to me, it's one or the other. You can't be half pregnant. You need to pick a road or lane and stick to it. You gotta pick either a brand split with championships that can't float, or a brand split with champions that can float. If they don't want to eliminate championships, fine. And if we're going to stick with a brand split, fine. I don't think they're going to merge the rosters, and I don't want them to, because there's too much talent that need the spotlight. I think you'd sacrifice that. We even talked about that probably a month or two ago about getting rid of the brand split. I don't think that's a good idea. So with those two options, you got to pick one. You can't say you're going to do one and then talk out of the other side of your mouth and you're doing the other thing.
And the other thing, could you imagine them having to abolish the Universal Championship again?
No.
Because if they that's what they would have to do, right?
Or merge them, right? Do you have a merger match? I think, was it John Cena and Randy Orton had one, I think. You'd have to merge them into the Universal WWE Championship. I mean, I don't know what you would do. And again, Roman Reigns has done such a great job with the Universal Championship and has added arguably more value than the WWE Championship over the last year. That's not even arguable, that the Universal Championship, a championship that came out of thin air because of the brand split, it was just created out of dust, and it feels more important than a championship that has 100 times the lineage around the shoulder of Big E. That's a credit to creative. That's a credit to WWE themselves. That's a credit to Roman Reigns and Paul Heyman and everyone involved, that you can create a championship out of thin air and it feels more important than one with a massive amount of lineage.
Yeah, and I mean, like you said, that would be Roman Reigns is doing, and you'd have to think that if The Rock eventually did join the Bloodline, he would only add to that. But you just have to hope, right, that he will decide to give more time than just the classic, 3-4 month long run of The Rock's greatest hits. Maybe we'll get some more depth this time around, but we can only hope.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I guess let me ask you the last question. So what is your real thought? Not what if, but rather, what do you really think, if you're going to be put on the spot? How do they deal with The Rock? Say he does come in around Survivor Series. Do you think it's just going to be the standard Survivor Series to Mania, Rock loses?
Yeah, I think so, because at the end of the day, I feel like The Rock is going to give them a handful of dates, 10 if they're lucky. And if that's the case, they don't really have the time to build anything more complex than what we're ultimately thinking. The Rock's going to come back. He's going to congratulate Roman at the front, at the beginning of it, and then it's going to turn to a bit of criticism. Roman's going to blast him from the back, and then we're just going to slowly build until WrestleMania. Like I said, if they had more time, maybe they would take more of a curbed approach and more, prolonged run at it. But I just think that with the amount of time the Rock's going to be able to give them, it's just not going to give them a whole lot of options to do anything more than the straightforward, predictable outcome that I think we're all expecting. Now, if the Rock somehow says, hey, I got 6 months, or I can give you, an appearance bi-weekly, I think this all changes. But my best guess here is that they're going to only get a strict amount of dates, and it's not going to give them too much room for playing.
Yeah, I hate to be boring about this, but the thing is, being boring and predictable, we all still want to see it. I know that, we're creating a scenario that sounds like, oh, well, it's just going to be this and this, but we all still will be on the edge of our seats with this. We all want to see The Rock go face-to-face with Roman, and then see the promos between the two, and then ultimately build for 5-6 months to WrestleMania 38 in Dallas. That is still, even if it's predictable, is fine. Predictability is not always the worst thing in the world if it's the right thing to do. And if they're going to play the safe route and Rock has limited dates, then sure, let's just take this ride and have some fun promos and have some great headshots and pictures that are going to be swirling around social media like wildfire, and have WWE get spiked in ratings for a while, and they'll be the talk of the town with The Rock return. But that is most likely, I'd say, I'd give it like a 90% chance, maybe higher, that is probably going to be the outcome. As fun as our conversation is about The Rock, losing and then turning heel and joining the Bloodline, which is a very, very small chance, I do think, like you, this is going to ultimately be just the kind of standard, predictable storyline, which is not a bad thing.
If The Rock hypothetically gave them kind of like an 18-month long window, like he gives them a lot more time than they could have ever have expected, do you think it changes a lot of things?
Oh, God, yeah. I think that they're doing the most they can with the small amount of time that presumably he's giving WWE. Like you said, probably 10 dates from November to April that sounds right to me. Maybe even overdone. I mean, we saw how little he was there on Raw between John Cena and Rock and their program. He was barely there. It was very frustrating as a Rock fan. And I think that if indeed he somehow has an open schedule, which it doesn't seem likely, but if he did, this whole thing changes on a dime. What I think would happen then, The Rock wins. I think The Rock wins at WrestleMania, and The Rock goes on a several-month reign as Universal Champion on SmackDown. Fox would be wetting their pants over that, and I mean, they would lose it. And then you have a Rock consistently on SmackDown for several months defending his championship, and still limited. I think he should be still limited to only wrestling on pay-per-views. And that could be a fun deal, because then, I think The Rock would be the one to dethrone Roman Reigns. What do you think?
Yeah, honestly, now that you say it, let's say he gave them until WrestleMania 39. like an almost 18th month long run, you could have him win the championship, prolong the build, and then maybe drop it around SummerSlam and then make him join the Bloodline. So then you get a 6-month run as him as a babyface, or even longer than that. And then a final run of him with the Bloodline that could build to a match, let's say, against Drew McIntyre, Edge, or Randy Orton. Brock. Oh my God! Imagine Rock versus Brock.
I've been
again.
talking about that for like 6 years. Yeah, I know. I'd actually rather see Rock Brock than Rock Roman. Honestly, if I was to choose, as great of a storyline that would be, I still would want to see Rock Brock, because it has been since 2002. It's been nearly 20 years. I mean, I would love to see that. I think it's more of a headline.
While we're on the topic here, could we quickly just squash the whole narrative that Brock is like an unliked worker? I love the guy. I don't know about you.
He's a what worker?
Like a bad worker.
I don't know where this is coming from. I honestly don't know. People are saying, oh, he's so one-dimensional. He's like Goldberg. I'm like, no. He is not Goldberg. Have you seen his matches? Like, have you watched anything that he does? He's a lot safer. He's a lot more athletic. He has a better gas tank. I think he is just flat out more athletic in the ring. The guy is an absolute monster. He knows actually how to wrestle, like amateur wrestling that he can put into there. I don't know where the hell people are coming up with that narrative. I've heard it too.
I've said this a lot recently. Aside from Austin, Rock, and Hogan, I don't think that there's ever been a bigger draw in WWE than Brock Lesnar, or I guess maybe John Cena as well.
I think, well, yeah, the thing is, I think Brock burned hotter than John, but John burned longer. And I think that's probably, if you're looking at the totality of the money drawn by John, it's obviously more than Brock Lesnar. But Brock Lesnar, I think, is a bigger name than John Cena. Even as much as John has done in Hollywood, and give him kudos, and he's definitely making a name for himself, quickly following the path of The Rock that he blazed for him. I think certainly that Brock Lesnar is still a bigger household name, even as a guy sitting on his farm in, to wherever the hell he is in Canada, right? Like, Brock Lesnar, unbelievably, not doing anything for 18 months, is still a bigger name than 95% of the guys on the roster.
I think it's because he's legitimate. Like, you saw what he did in UFC. You saw what he did in amateur wrestling. You saw him, at least get a lengthy look with the Minnesota Vikings. I think people just know that he is a legitimate badass. And I remember when he came back in 2012, it got a lot of eyes on the WWE product because he was just coming off of his mega run with the UFC.
Yeah, no, I do remember that. And that's exactly right. I know that Goldberg had a brief stint in football. I understand that. I know that Goldberg he's got his jiu-jitsu or whatever the hell he does. And I don't know. I mean, he's in incredible shape for his age. But Brock Lesnar has all the credentials of an actual athlete and two-time NCAA champion. Could have been, if he pursued it, could have been an Olympic gold medalist. Just in the right, following in the suit of Kurt Angle. He just didn't pursue it. He did. He was the last guy cut from the Vikings practice squad before the season started in 2005. Or 2004. So I think that, people look at that. Obviously, did with UFC, what he did as Pat McAfee says, the Broctagon, because they can't say octagon. For whatever reason, they've just decided that saying UFC or whatever is, cross promotion. I don't know. But that is something that people, I don't know where this is coming from. And to me, it's just lazy analysis. It's just, what are you talking about? Like, show me a Brock Lesnar match that sucks.
Yeah, no, I love Brock Lesnar, and I know we kind of went off track here, but I just wanted to get that in what was on my mind.
No, this is, I hear you, and that's what happens here. And people, people are like, wait a minute, it's supposed to be about the Rock joining the Bloodline, but I mean, this is just, I have no excuses for this. It's just, I love it because it's fun to talk about things that are actually somewhat possible in an environment with crowds back. This is what you can talk about and fantasize about for things that are not completely off the radar. Brock maybe going for an extended run, maybe being the one to dethrone Roman Reigns, maybe he joins the Bloodline, or maybe it's just the quote-unquote boring road of him losing to Roman and going back to Hollywood. It could be all three of those or one of those three. And it's fun to talk about the possibilities, especially with Brock Lesnar kind of floating around and what he's going to do over the next, apparently 18 months was his contract. So Brock Lesnar is going to be there for quite some time too.
which is good to see. And I'm really looking forward to what else they do with Brock. You have to think Bobby Lashley's on the horizon, maybe a rematch with Drew McIntyre, but and especially now that they changed his character, as much as I've liked Brock over the years, like there was something a little stale about his character. I just didn't mind it because I truly felt that that's who he was. Like, in my opinion, Brock Lesnar is the most authentic character in the history of the company. So that's why it didn't bother me too much, because I literally would say to myself, like, okay, he's just playing Brock Lesnar, the human. But the fact that he has changed his look, he's obviously changed his character. I would assume he's kind of a babyface now, coming off like he's just, finished like rallying up a herd of goats on a farm or whatever. I think it really has given his character a breath of fresh air. What do you think?
Oh, yeah. And now that he's babyface, and people also say, and I've admittedly said this too, I'm not going to pretend I didn't, that Brock is not good on promos. And he's not good in the traditional sense of what we think of a good wrestling promo being. But as I kind of thought about it, I don't know if Brock's bad on it or he's just really good at the way he delivers his promos, because he's good on the microphone to the extent that he is just, as you said, authentic. He just says what he feels and doesn't come off sometimes polished or smooth or a cute tagline at the end like a typical wrestling promo would. But maybe that's what makes Brock really good. He's just so full of energy and so intense all the time that it's fun to hear Brock Lesnar speak on his own without the help of Paul Heyman right now. So, yeah.
Yeah, well, that's exactly it. And to your point, I think you said it perfectly. He's not a stereotypical good promo, but it's because you really think that that's him. And I think that's his best quality, is that he feels like he's just being himself. And even though he maybe comes off a bit bland or his voice doesn't really match his body, but when you hear him speak, at least in my opinion, it really just feels like it's he himself speaking. And that makes me want to, I don't know, just be invested in his character.
Yeah. Brock doesn't feel, it almost feels like Brock doesn't want to be there anyway, which I know he actually probably doesn't. And it's weird to think that I appreciate that. It's because of the authenticism of his character. That's what it all boils down to, that people gravitate to, even if it's not an admirable trait, that you're getting paid millions of dollars to be somewhere that you don't want to be. And I know he doesn't. He wants nothing to do with this. He'd rather be sitting on his farm and milking his cows, and you said herding goats, and just like sitting in a barn or working out. Like, that just is apparently what Brock just wants to do. And by his attitude, because he's so authentic, that he just doesn't want to effing be here, and he's simply here for the money. And that makes it hilarious to me, because he can come in and be better than anyone on the roster by just being himself and not even really trying. That's what is so damn good about Brock, and Brock is so good in the ring that that speaks for itself too. So yeah, I know this wasn't supposed to be about Brock Lesnar, but it somehow did morph into it. And imagine the paycheck that Brock Lesnar's getting, a guy that hates people, legitimately hates crowds in terms of not maybe in the arena, but hates traveling, just doesn't want to see or talk and hear it from anybody, to go to Saudi Arabia in October and face Roman Reigns. Just imagine that paycheck that Brock Lesnar's getting. How many zeros are on that one?
But that's what makes it awesome, because he doesn't want to be there. Like, I always had a joke that he probably just showed up in his jet 5 minutes before the match started, did his match, and then as he was walking through Gorilla, he was already being given the keys to like his rental car. And that makes it really cool, in my opinion, because he's a guy that's just so good at what he does. He just gets whatever he wants by the company, and we could all hate him for that, but at least in my mind, he's easily one of the characters I live the most vicariously through.
Oh God. And I love Pat McAfee's description of him, how if aliens came down to Earth and we had to choose one human to fight him, it would be Brock Lesnar. I mean, it's so true. Like, Brock would be that guy. There was even a clip of Brock Lesnar. I don't know what WrestleMania it was from. I know that it was one that Brock Lesnar retained the championship. And it was a clip of him going backstage, and the crowd was not with this match. I honestly, I don't know if it was with Roman. It probably was with Roman Reigns.
Roman at 34.
Yeah, and he went backstage, threw the championship at Vince and Gorilla, and said, "Here, a-hole," and then or said or something. He said cursed at Vince McMahon, who's sitting there with his headset on. and then Vince like said something back to him. It just the audacity. It's so like, it doesn't get any more defiant than a guy that's paying you millions to be there. You come backstage, throw your championship in disrespect to the boss. I mean, this is unscripted stuff. So, I mean, I don't know. Do you know what clip I'm talking about? It's like a 6-second, 10-second clip of this. Whatever.
Yeah, no, I know exactly what you're talking about. It was following his match against against Roman Reigns at WrestleMania 34, and I think it's because the crowd turned on it. And if I'm to understand correctly, it's because Vince switched the match to Brock going over at the 11th hour because they sensed that the crowd would freak out if Roman retained. And then I remember like Roman was bloodied, mounted a comeback, and then kind of out of nowhere, Brock hit him with the F5, retained the championship. It was a very rejected main event, if memory serves me correctly, and Brock felt that and clearly wasn't appreciative of how they booked the match.
Yeah. Okay. There you go. There's the explanation, and that's exactly what Brock did. And I love that attitude from Brock. That even backstage, he's like the same guy he's out in the ring. It's hilarious. I find Brock just really funny at times, and just because he's just who he is, and he's not trying to play a wrestler. He's not a character. He's just Brock Lesnar, and it's amazing how that just works with him. So. All right. Well, let's close this out here. I mean, we're now in just I don't know where the hell we are in terms of topics now. It's great. But all right, Anthony, before you go, just let everyone know, of course, where they can find you on social media.
Oh, you can find me at AdaMarco25 on Twitter and the same handle on Instagram if you guys want to see pictures of my ugly face. I'm just kidding.
Very good. Yeah, no, I hear you. And go follow, guys. You, of course, can check out Anthony and his rivalries every single week on Fridays right here on the WWE podcast. So, Anthony, so much fun, way off topic, but we did at least cover what we were supposed to. We just added more. How about that? We gave everyone more than they expected. That's how I'll look at it.
Yeah, we'll look at it as a little bonus part of our episode, as that's the best explanation we could give when we go off the rails.
Yeah, you guys got bonus content, so you're the benefactors of this. It's not that we screwed up. You guys got more content than you expected, and it's bonus. Yes, that's how we'll sell it. So, all right. Well, thanks so much, man, and we'll be chatting next week.
Yeah, man. Looking forward to it.
All right. See you later.